In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to add a texture to a face. Hey Cafe crew, it's Colin Smith here from photoshopCAFE.com. Today we're going to do a fun creative project. We're going to add a texture to a face. Now today is my birthday, so you can wish me happy birthday, or you can smash that like button into dust, and if you haven't yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Alright, let's get started. So for those of you who hate it when I've already got the images in here, we're going to choose File, Open. We're going to navigate to our images, whether you're on Mac or Windows, and then click Open. And they're going to open in 3 different tabs. Now I'm going to give you this image here, and I'm going to give you this image here. We're going to put a newspaper on top of the woman. Now of course you could search for your own texture, use any texture you want. In this case, I'm going to be using this Adobe stock texture, which I can't give you because it's Adobe stock. You could use the watermarked version if you want. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to combine it. I'm just going to click on the image that I want to bring into the face, drag into the tab. Don't release yet. You see how that cursor is black, means it's loaded with a texture. Release it, and there we go. So we're going to position this somewhere in there. I'm just going to hit Control J to make a copy of this, just so I have a copy that I can play with later. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to kind of get this to select her face. So let's just grab the face. Now of course you could do the whole body if you wanted, or put different textures on there. In this case we're going to focus on the face. So why don't we go to the left hand side here, and we're going to go down, and let's go here, and you're going to see the object selection tool. So we're going to choose the object selection and just kind of click around her face. We're trying to select her face. That's pretty good. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. Now if you don't see that, you could just go in there and you could use the quick selection tool and do the same thing. In fact, I'm going to hit the shift key and just click on here to select a little bit more of her cheek. That looks good. It's a little bit more, a bit more cheeky. Oh my gosh, my puns are really bad today. Alright, so I've made that selection, and why don't we turn on our texture layer and then select it, and then all we're going to do now is see where the layer mask is. Just click on the layer mask, and that's going to give a mask of there. Great, so we want to, maybe I'm going to scale this a little bit, so I'm just going to turn off that chain link, hit Control T for free transform, and drag a corner, and let's just scale it down so we just get a little bit more detail. And I'm just looking for an area that might be nice, maybe about there. Great. Alright, so obviously we've got this texture, but it's not matching her face yet. We've got to do some things to just kind of follow the contours and different things like that. So first thing we're going to do is drop our opacity down to about 50%. So let's just pull it down a little bit just so we can see the face. Alright, and this just kind of gives me an idea of where we're going to be working. In fact, why don't I pull that opacity up, because I did say about 50, and let's zoom in a little bit. Alright, so I want to start following the contours of this face a little bit better. So let's go in here just with our layer selected. Notice I've unlinked it from the mask, so we don't want to change the mask, we just want to change the layer. Hit Control T, that's Command T on the Mac for free transform, and now that you are in free transform mode, we're going to right click, and you're going to see an option that says warp. Now warp enables us to warp this image just by dragging on it. Now we want to be a little bit more accurate in how we're doing it. We don't want to just drag it everywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to split it. And if we hold down the Alt or the Option key, you'll see that we can split this warp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it on either side of your nose. And I'm going to go on the other side of the nose. We're going to split it there. And why don't we divide it just under the eyes and under the top of the, the eye area here. So we're basically subdividing almost like we would if we were doing 3D. So I'm going to put one under the nose. I'm going to put one on the top of the lip, one at the bottom of the lip. And let's divide again somewhere near the chin line, but not at the bottom of the chin, but where it kind of goes in there. Great. So what we want to do now is we want to start just kind of changing these. So here's an interesting thing about this. If I hold the Shift key and drag, I can select multiple points. And that means I can move these around together, or I can drag above. Look at that. See if I go there, and now we start to pinch this, which is good. We want to pinch that just a little bit. And let's go on the other side. We're going to grab that and we're going to pinch that in a little bit. So what we're doing is we're just pinching it into where the nose is. That's great. Now just click away to unselect. And so if you choose a point, notice how it'll move like that. And if you go in the surface, you can move it that way. So let's just bring this up a little bit on the eyes, on the cheeks. Let's do the same on the other side there. In fact, I'll just hit the Alt key just to give us another point, just so we're kind of, working with similar kind of shapes. All right, so why don't we just pinch this nose in a little bit? I'm just going to drag in there and just pinch that in. Let's do the same on the other side. And you'll see these little handles appear. You can use those or you can drag however you want. And all I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of dragging it up to just kind of get a little bit more contour of the face. I'm going to hit the Alt key again and create another one just so I can flare out these nostrils a little bit. There we go. So you might want to drag up a little bit for the cheeks. And just kind of work, where you think that the contours would be. Let's select both of these. So actually, I'm just going to hold down the Shift key. Let me click away and select these two. And if you do that, you can bring them up together. See that? Let's bring those up a little bit. And hold down, whoops, not the Alt, but let's do the Shift key again. We're going to go down there and let's just bring it up. So we're just trying to shape that a little bit. Same with here. Let's hold the Shift key and we're going to bring this down. And what we're doing is just trying to fit in here a little bit. All right, so we're getting there. So I would just say, just keep playing around until you get something that feels good to you. Let's kind of drag that out a little bit, spread it out on the forehead. Great. It's definitely looking better. Let me hit the Alt or the Option key, and I'm just going to create a little square here around the eye area. So I'm going to Shift click to select all of these, and I'm just going to drag it in. See what I'm doing? Dragging that corner, it just pinches it in. Let's do the same thing on the other side. And this is almost like 3D modeling. I don't know if you've ever done any 3D modeling, but it works kind of like this, basically pushing and pulling polygons. And we're doing a kind of similar thing. Okay, so let's just hit Enter to apply that. And if we turn our opacity all the way up, you'll see it might be a little hard to notice at the moment, but we can get it to start to match the face a little bit better. So we're just kind of bending it and warping it in, but it'll really make sense when we, really put it together. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create a displacement map. And this is just going to pick up a little bit more of the contour. So in order to do that, hide the layers and select just our face here, just our face layer. And then we're going to go to the channels. And we're going to go for the channel that has the most contrast. Just click on the red, green, and blue. Usually it's blue, and in this case, of course, it's blue. So what we want to do is we want to create a new document out of this channel. So right-click where it says blue, and then we're going to choose to duplicate channel. The duplicate channel option is going to come up, and for destination, we're going to choose new. And we'll call this face mask. No pun intended for COVID. And we're just going to click OK. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us another document. Here's our document we've been working on, and here's the new one. And if you look under the image mode, you'll notice that this is multi-channel. So it's just a single channel, and this is what we want. This is how we're going to create a displacement map. So what we want to do is we want to enhance a little bit some of these contrasts. So we're going to make sure that we hit the Control L key for levels, and then we're going to boost the highlights a little bit. We're going to boost the shadows a little bit, and then just kind of increase the contrast. So that's what we're doing. We're going for maximum contrast. Click OK. Now, sometimes you can blur this, to get rid of the micro texture, but in this case, we're going to be fine. And we're just going to save this. So we're just going to choose Save As, and we're just going to call this DMap for displacement map. Click OK. Great. All right, we don't need that anymore. We can turn it off. And here we are back in our document, in the channels. And we want to just go back to normal. So just click where it says RGB on the words RGB. All these eyes should come on, and our channel's now back to normal. Great. Let's go back to our layers panel. And now we're going to go up to the top here, and we want to select our texture. And we're going to apply the displacement map to it now. So we're going to choose Filter, And under filter, we're going to go down to distort and then go across to where it says displace. And we'll just keep the default settings of 10 and 10. Click OK. And now it's going to ask for that displacement map. Navigate to where it is. That's the one we created, the D map, and click open and watch the image. See how it just kind of moved around a little bit? Let me show you that before and after. So that is going to warp to fit the face. And you'll see this when we go into, let's change this to a blend mode. Let's try something like, I don't know, maybe an overlay blend mode. And you can see how these contours now are really starting to match the body. So the next thing we got to do is we just want to mask away the areas around the eyes and the lips. So let's just zoom in a little bit. And let's hide our layer and see what we're working with here. So there we go. We can see we've got these eyelashes going in there. So we're not going to get rid of those. Those will probably appear in our image, but we just want to make sure we're just looking at what we're working with. Great. Okay, so let's select our layer. Let's go to the mask. Click on that layer mask right now. And now with this layer mask selected, what we're going to do is we are going to paint with black. So I just connected my Wacom tablet here. I'm going to hit the B for brush and make sure that we hit the D key to reset the foreground background colors, and then hit the X key, that'll set black. And that'll enable us to paint into this mask with black, and that will hide those areas inside the image. Make sure opacity is all the way up to 100 and flows up to 100. We're in normal blending mode. Also click on the brush options if you're using a tablet. Turn off transfer. So that means when I paint now, I'm going to be painting at 100% opacity without any pen pressure. All right, so I'm just going to Control Option key on the Mac, and if I drag up or down, it changes the hardness. Left and right changes the size. If you're working on Windows, that's the Alt right drag. All right, so we're just going to paint over here. So we want to paint away our eyes. And you might want to come in a little bit closer so we can get this nice. Let's do it hard. And let's get these edges nice. And the blending mode should enable you to just kind of see through nicely. And if you wanted, of course, you could, change the opacity if that helps you, just kind of lowering the opacity. But I'm just looking to just kind of get it in there, and I'm looking to go around the edge of the eye. Great. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this a little softer. So I'm just going to drop this flow though. I'm just going to hit the Shift 1 to drop the flow down to 10%. And I'm just going to blend it onto the eyelid. So it's not going to be quite completely gone, but it's going to be more gone. So just kind of blending that in a little bit and blending these edges. All right, let me hit Control 0 and you can see the first eye is done. Let's do the second eye. And we can start with that blending if we want. Just painting on there. This will just kind of blend it in a little bit so it doesn't look so abrupt. All right, let's go to our hard opacity and turn our flow all the way up. And let's paint this in. Great. So we're just allowing that eye to show through. Now I'm in pretty close and I'm doing this pretty tight. You could probably be a little looser and get away with it. All right, so there's the eyes. Let's go down here. We're going to do the same thing on the lips. I'm going to soften the edge of the brush a little bit. There we go. And maybe make that brush a little smaller. There we go. And now I'm just painting in on the lips because that would look a little weird on the lips. And see what we're doing here? We're just blending that in. Great. And maybe we're just going to get in here into the nostrils a little bit. You know what I'm going to do though? Let me undo that. I'm going to drop the flow down a little bit, and we're just going to paint that a little bit more subtle. So we're just going to just blend that in more. See that? So we're not going 100%, but we're just kind of blending it in. There we go. Great. And let's do a little bit on the eyebrows. I'm not going to completely do them. We're just going to reduce it a little bit so we can see a little more eyebrow coming through. Maybe a little bit more on the eyelids. And remember, you can experiment with different blending modes. You don't have to be using overlay mode, which I'm using right now. All right, that's looking pretty good. I just want to get in here on that mask here and just make sure we get these edges a little bit better. So let's turn that flow all the way up. And I'm going to paint with white. And I'm just going around these edges. There we go. Let's just get those a little smoother. Now this is kind of optional what I'm doing here. And if you wanted to add the ears in, you could. I'm not going to. Spacebar enables you to move around while you're painting. And I just want to soften that edge a little bit. It's just a little too harsh. All right, so we're getting there. Now, one of the things we need to do, though, is we need to add some shading, and this is really going to make this look more realistic. So we're going to go on top here, and we're just going to create a new layer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to link that layer with its mask, and we want to use that mask. So if I hit the Alt or the Option key, notice this little arrow appears, and if I click, it will clip this. So let me show you what that means. If I paint with black, notice it only affects inside that area because we're constraining it now by clipping it. Great. And let's drop our flow down. I've dropped it down to about 10%. Let's see how that looks with black as the foreground color. Let's make sure our brush is soft. And I'm just going to drag it back. So now we're just going to paint a little shadow around the hair, where the hair would be just falling on the face. See, by doing that, it starts to look a little bit more realistic now. Do the same on the other side. Start to get a little bit more dimension. We definitely need to take it away from that area where it's going on the ear. So in order to fix that, just flip that around, hit white, and just paint with white. Okay, because we don't want that over there. That's going to look strange. Great. Probably putting the newspaper on the ear would be a good move too. All right. So let's continue. I'm just going to now do some contouring on the face. So with black selected, let's create another layer. Before we do, let's change this normal mode to multiply mode. And just play around with that opacity. See what we're doing? Just getting that shadow there. Nice. And, you know, we could go in and fix that hair selection, which I would recommend if you want to make it look really good. Let's create a new layer, clip that in there. And now we're going to paint in some shadows. So we're at 10% flow, and we're thinking, okay, where would shadows come in? Well, if we look here on the side of the nose, we definitely would see some shadows kind of coming in there under the brow line. And this is where this is going to start to really come alive. So you can see a big difference already. So putting some of that shadow in there where that shadow would be, just kind of hitting her. A little bit under the nose. Great. And let's make that a little smaller. We're going to put some under the lips because you've got a little bit of contour there. In fact, let me make that a little bigger because it's looking a little too soft. There we go. That's better. Great. So where else might we see this? We might see a little bit of shadow in here, around the edges of the eyes. Great. And maybe a little bit at the bottom of the chin. So let's just put just a little bit there at the bottom of the chin. Great. So now we're going to flip this around and we're going to paint with white. And the forehead's probably going to get blasted with a bit of white. And don't worry if this is looking too much, because we're going to fix this in a minute, and we're going to go down the middle of the nose. Boom. So that's where light would be hitting, and top of the cheeks here. A little bit there. It's almost like I'm doing contouring makeup right now. All right. Now what we're going to do is change the blend mode of our shadows and highlights. Let's go to overlay blend mode maybe. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that looks nice. It's giving us a little bit of texture there on the face. So there we go. I just showed you how to add a texture to a face. And in this case, we used a newspaper. I mean, you could use any kind of texture. The steps in the process are exactly the same. So now this was something a little bit different, more along the creative kind of avenue this time. Let me know in the comments underneath if you like this kind of creative direction, you know, where we're just kind of doing a project, or if you prefer just the basic tutorials, let me know. And by the way, if you like this, smash the like button into dust. And if you're new here, welcome to the Cafe crew. Hit that subscribe button and you'll get a new tutorial from me every single week. All right, guys, until next time, I'll see you at the cafe.